Hey everyone, welcome back to Heart Health with Michelle. Today we're going to talk about the importance of understanding visceral fat and making sure that you know your waist circumference. We'll talk about why it's important and how do we measure it effectively. So let's get right to it. We have to understand that your visceral fat, your abdominal weight that's centered around your visceral organs, is more metabolically active. And this increases pro inflammatory cytokines and proteins, leading to a lot of different issues from cardiovascular disease to metabolic issues and metabolic syndrome to also kidney damage. There is a new term out there called CKM syndrome that really links the connection between dysfunctional adipose tissue, so that visceral fat, with all three of these stages of disease. So I'm going to share my screen because I want to review with you the evidence of the science and clinical management of CKM syndrome from the American Heart Association. They have a really cool graphic here that is important to understand. So when we have excess dysfunctional adipose tissue, that visceral fat, it actually causes more issues in the vascular space and also in the whole body. So it's causing an increased amount of inflammation, oxidative stress, insulin resistance, vascular dysfunction. And all of this can cause more kidney damage and can cause more susceptibility to atherosclerosis, myocardial remodeling, fibrosis, and cardiac dysfunction. We have to be addressing our visceral fat, and a lot of times we are unaware of it. Many people think that their waist circumference is their pant size, and that is incorrect. Your waist circumference, which is an indication of visceral fat, is aligning to your belly button. So I want to encourage you to really be focusing on this metric. When you have a moment, you can get it from Amazon, you can get it from CVS, your local pharmacy. Get one of those soft measuring tapes. And I want to make sure that you are standing upright, not sucking in, not sucking out, and making sure that that tape measure is really circular around. So it's not, some of it's not up, some of it's not down. It's really straight around and in alignment to your belly button. That can help us indicate if you have excess visceral fat, excess abdominal weight. Now, when we look at that measure, it's important that we understand that the targets may differ based off of your ethnicity. So if you are the general population, we want it to be less than 40 inches for a man and less than 35 inches for a woman. If you are of South Asian ethnicity, as an example, we actually want those metrics to be 2 inches less in each direction because we see a lot of metabolic syndrome and CKM syndrome prevalence in South Asians at a lower BMI, at a lower waist circumference. So we must be more proactive in those incidences. So I want you to understand the importance of acknowledging the visceral fat. And then from there, realizing that what's going on, right? So when we have dysfunctional adipose tissue, it's more inflammatory, but it also can increase the risk or the prevalence of impaired glucose tolerance, leading to insulin resistance. So in order to address visceral fat, we must be also addressing insulin resistance. We also must be addressing dyslipidemia, high lipids, our hypertension, high blood pressure. We want to make sure we're also looking at glucose and metabolism. So my biggest tip here is understanding that we need to be eating in a way that allows our body to break down the food, put it into the cell where it belongs, and allow for all of these things to be optimized. And we want to make sure that you are having food that helps to make this easier on your body. So many people might think, okay, you mentioned glucose intolerance. Does that mean I have to go low carb? And that's actually not true. When we take out the carbs altogether, we actually can become more insulin resistant because we're having more of a higher saturated fat diet, which causes our cells to be more insulin resistant. What we want to do actually is focus more on a plant forward diet. And this can look like a Mediterranean diet. This can look more like a vegetarian diet. but also a diet that's very rich in carotenoids, which is a lot of plant-based foods. We also want to make sure you're having adequate protein, adequate amounts of fat, adequate amounts of whole grains to improve all of these factors. Because when we look at CKM syndrome, we have to really understand that we cannot look at our kidneys, our metabolism, and our heart health in silos, but rather as a collective, and that they all work synergistically together. When we implement a well balanced micronutrient and macronutrient diet that is personalized to you so that it's sustainable long term, we are helping to lower cholesterol, lower insulin resistance and blood sugar levels, optimize blood pressure to 110/70. We're looking at lowering that visceral fat that is the main cause of a lot of these issues, especially CKM syndrome. So we need to be looking at the whole picture, and the diet that you have should have all of these levels should be going in the right direction together, which will optimize your cardiovascular health and well-being. So make sure you check your waist circumference, and if it is above where we want it to be, we need to be targeting it, and we need to be measuring it every week to ensure that it's coming in the down in the right direction. We're looking at a quarter of an inch, an eighth of an inch per week, because slow and steady weight loss is important. It's protective against gout, scarring of the liver. It helps to retain muscle strength and avoids muscle loss. And it also leads to long-term sustainability. So we need to do this and monitor it on a week-to-week basis. So if we're not making progress, we can assess the reason why. I've seen many of my clients actually not lose 1 pound on that scale until 6 to 8 inches of their waist is reduced, and which is always shocking to me that many people are losing inches off their waist, but their weight is not budging on the scale. And that tells me they were harboring a lot of inflammation and insulin resistance, and that's what we need to reduce in order to optimize your cardiometabolic well-being. So instead of focusing on just the weight, I really want you to focus in on your waist circumference and make sure we're targeting that when we're looking at optimizing your heart health and reducing your risk of heart attacks and strokes. My name is Michelle Rothenstein. I'm a cardiovascular dietitian. If I can help support you further, please feel free to reach out to me. Visit my website, entirelynourished.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Subscribe to my email list for more heart disease prevention tips. Until next time, I'm wishing you a wonderful day. Talk soon.